What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Now, I'm Alex. This video, I want to talk about Doom Eternal leading in to its release. So kind of my thoughts on this game, kind of where I stand on my expectations for this game a few weeks, actually at this point, only like a week and a half before the game releases. So we've been doing this a little recently. It's kind of like a preview, but without me going into very specific details, right? It's more or less me just talking about a franchise or talking about a title and talk about my expectations. And Doom, I mean, this is a big one. I think going into this year, you go into January, you go into February, and there's been some things, like there were things that were released, right? We had Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, we had Dreams, which I think was a very big like surprise success, especially for like a PlayStation 4 like exclusive kind of thing. But then March, I think for a long time, ever since actually Doom was delayed, and I think Animal Crossing as well, right? Those games have been that thing that people have been looking forward to, and ironically, them coming out literally on the exact same day, totally cool. As it turns out, I'm actually getting both of them for very different reasons, but it's going to be a very busy, March 20th, I think, for a lot of gamers. But Doom Eternal, to me, has an okay amount to prove. I'm looking forward to it. I have my expectations set relatively high. I'm not, like, doing somersaults in my room, like waiting for this game. I'm not expecting it to be Game of the Year, and that, I think, is where I maybe differ from if you're a hardcore Doom fan, if you're a hardcore, even like a first-person shooter, especially this kind of like fast-paced first-person shooter, I think you're probably expecting quite a bit. And I think that they're going to nail it, by the way. I think that we're all going to be very pleased. I'm not like to that level. Doom isn't necessarily my kind of game. Again, with that being said, though, it's not fully my kind of game, but I do enjoy it. I played the 2016 Doom. I did love it. I've talked a lot about it on this channel over the past couple of weeks, really, if you guys have seen other videos, where my basic standpoint on that was I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought the campaign length was fine. With that being said, I still did feel it kind of got repetitive. Now, like, yes, there was action. It was, you were constantly moving. Your heart's like pumping, right? Because you're literally, you do not stop in that game. You're constantly facing new enemies, and then like bosses become enemies in future, levels, and the game just keeps moving. And really, especially like a first-person shooter like that, very hard to get that. For the most part, there will be like downtime, and I guess there is maybe a little downtime in Doom, right? It's not literally every single second you're doing something. And Doom Eternal is the same, right? Unless you're speed running it, unless you're going through it at the speed of sound, there will be moments where there's not going to be action happening. But I mean, you can't expect that nonstop. But that's Doom's MO, right? Now, with that being said, one of the problems I did have with Doom is, yes, the length was fine. It was only like 8-9 hours, but I did feel like, especially towards the second half of the game, it got repetitive. Now, that's just me. That's just my opinion. I feel like I'm in the minority there. I feel like people disagree. It got really solid review scores. There was really no glare, and even that is not a glaring problem. It's like I enjoyed it. I had fun. I wouldn't say it was my favorite game ever. I wouldn't say it's my game of the year of 2016, but I enjoyed it. I'm happy. I bought it day one. And so with Doom Eternal now, this game looks absolutely phenomenal. I again just want to start off by saying that the game looks very, very fluid. The game looks beautiful in like the kind of bloody, disgusting kind of like that kind of way, right? Looks really, really good. Looks very fast-paced. Again, just the same way as the first Doom, or Doom 2016, but then also amplified, right? Now, the things that I guess you could feel good about, I've talked about this, again, through different videos, the things I kind of feel good about, but also still worried at the same time, is that length, is that campaign length. They've said that it's going to be much, much longer. I was seeing some like 20, 25 plus hour campaign, and it's like, okay, that's fine. That's very different for like a story, because it's not even, I would argue the weakest part of Doom, 2016's Doom, was the story, is that it was there, but it wasn't all that important. You really don't have to, and I feel like because of that, like, you don't have to care about the campaign of Doom. I feel like that kind of haunts it. But again, is it that big of a deal? I don't think so. I think I go into Doom, I went into 2016's Doom, same thing I'm going into with this Doom. I'm not expecting like a groundbreaking story. I'm not even, to be honest, I'm not expecting any story. If there is a story that's like really good, fine, but I'm really not going into it for that. And again, you could argue, all right, well then why are you complaining? I mean, that is just an aspect of the game, but I mean, part of the worry is if it's 20 plus hours, even if it's 20, let's say it's 20 hours, takes you 20 hours, that is a long time. Okay, there has to be enough stuff to do for 20 hours. And yes, there'll be variations of enemies, and there'll be different bosses, and there'll be different levels and different like landscapes and all that kind of stuff. But can you keep us going for 20 plus hours? That is a big task. And also, the story kind of dictates where you go. Now, again, the story can be kind of like cookie cutter. It doesn't have to be the greatest thing in the world. It doesn't even have to make sense. It doesn't have to be, again, like grounded or anything like that. And that's fine. I'm just a little, again, like the same concerns I have afterwards for Doom 2016, I still feel like I have them for this game, where it's like I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure where I stand. Again, I have confidence. I feel like they'll prove me wrong, but I'm just hoping that I don't get to a certain point and say, man, that kind of feels repetitive. Especially because, again, if you felt like the first Doom was repetitive, it's like, it's only a couple extra. I only have to go a couple more hours, and then I'm done with it. Whereas this game, it's like, well, I'm only at hour 8, and I have like 12 plus hours left. Like, it's gonna get. But you know what I mean? Again, it could be a minor complaint because the game could start and it could literally be pedal to the metal for like all the way through, which I honestly feel like it very well could. I wouldn't be surprised if it is, and I'm not expecting it. I'm kind of, I guess, because again, I'm kind of keeping my expectations like at a cautious level. But then, you know what? If it is just nonstop, just mayhem, fine. That is awesome. And then my expectations will have been broken massively, which is ultimately what I want. The final thing I basically want to talk about is the battle mode, the multiplayer. I like this. I actually did a video on this on my second channel. I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to check it out. But that multiplayer looks fantastic, and now I actually kind of forgot that, because I do remember like they announced it a long time ago, right? But then they recently showed it again. I think in IGN's first feature. You know how they do that for a month. They pick a game. They did that recently. I think last month for Doom, and I kind of like rediscovered. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot there was multiplayer. I watched it, and I made a video on it, and I love it. I mean, it looks really, really good, and that is the kind of like, it's not too complex, it's not too deep, but it is deep enough where firstly, it's very, very different from what you get from most multiplayer modes or multiplayer games in general, because it's like in that Doom kind of feel, but it looks really, really fun. It looks like it can keep your attention. I think this Doom has a less percentage fail rate, like, how much I feel like it could fail than the 2016, because that one was kind of like, okay, we're gonna bring it to modern day, we're bringing it to, I guess, quote unquote next gen at that time, right? It was the first Doom on PS4 and Xbox One, stuff like that, right? Like, we have something to prove to you, we want to make this something special. This one doesn't necessarily have to do those things, but it does have to say, okay, well, now we're on a building path, and now this game is going to be even better. So yeah, it does have some of those expectations, but I feel like with this game, again, you're getting like at least double the length of the story, if not more, actually probably more. You're assuming that, everything in regards to that, the weapons, the speed, like just the fluidity of everything is even better, which, and there was no problem with that, by the way. I don't want to like undersell how much I liked it. I enjoyed 2016's Doom. It was very, very fun. I enjoyed, and for not being really a shooter fan all that much, I do play shooters like all the time, but I really, really enjoyed the speed, all of the different weapons, all the different enemy types. Just constantly moving and feeling like you're constantly going. I loved it. And so again, doing that here, awesome. And then now we get a multiplayer mode. Just throw on a multiplayer mode where, yeah, you know what? Honestly, it doesn't even have to be that in-depth, right? Because it's there. It seems, for the most part, like it's very solid and it's going to work really well. And I think it's going to serve a lot of different people. I think, honestly, everybody, because it really, I think, reflects, obviously not everybody, I guess, even has internet connection, but it really reflects, I think, what Doom would be if you went multiplayer. So if you're playing it for the single player, which honestly I feel, even though it has multiplayer, and sometimes games with multiplayer modes gets that thing where like everybody's buying it for the multiplayer, I think this Doom, it's like, no, I'd say like 95% are buying it for that single player where they're going to play it and they're really going to enjoy it. But then the good thing is the multiplayer is such a good extension of it, kind of like how I see the Uncharted. Like the Uncharted multiplayers I always saw as such awesome extensions of the single player, where it's like, maybe you're not into playing multiplayer modes with that kind of like single single-player game. Like, it kind of feels weird. But because it works so well and it feels like a natural, like, yes, this is what Uncharted would feel like in a multiplayer. Same thing here. This is what Doom would feel like if you threw it into a multiplayer blender. And I feel like that's going to have a lot of people come over. And again, like the idea of it being 2v1, I love it. I love the idea of it. I love literally the goal of what each side has to do. Again, kind of very simple, actually insanely simplistic, but because it's in this Doom atmosphere, it feels just right. You know what I mean? So I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I know it's been an up and down video. I would say I definitely have my concerns. I don't want to undersell that I am a little worried, but at the same time, I also don't want to undersell that for, if people are just coming here because they love Doom and then they're like, Alex, you're bashing it too much. I do want you to understand I'm a big fan of this franchise as of late, as of really 2016. I'm looking forward to this. I've had it pre-ordered for almost a year, ever since pre-orders came out. I think I pre-ordered this game last year. I remember in the spring of 2019. So I've had this pre-order for a while. I've sat through multiple delays, and I'm ready to play it. I'm getting that and Animal Crossing on the same day. But at the end of the day, I'm super pumped to play Doom. So guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? What are your expectations going in? You guys excited? Are you guys worried about anything for Doom? Let me know anything you guys want to talk about in the comments below. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel Podcast Now. Hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you all on the next video.